Army Podcast. This platform is for common sense people looking for up-to-date, accurate, and truthful information without the hot garbage corporate media bias. The power of one can lead to the power of many. You never know what small act that you may say or do that may literally change the lives of millions tomorrow. And don't you ever think that you can't make a difference, because you can. Good morning, my fellow Michiganders. Good morning, my fellow Americans. Welcome to the Grassroots Army Podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Garrett Soldano. And today, I have my man, Anthony Hudson, on the show, who is running for governor in the state of Michigan. Anthony, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks a lot, Garrett. I appreciate it. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic on this beautiful Monday in Michigan, that is for sure. So we're going to get right into it, my man. A lot of people, you're unheard of right now, but you're really starting to gain some steam, especially on social media. I see you all over TikTok. But a couple years back, I saw, and actually you showed up on my timeline as I was starting to research some of the videos that you did. I said, I remember this guy. You ran for president as an independent in 2022. How did that all come about? Why did you want to just throw your hat in the ring in the big leagues and not start small at the local level and build up? What was your thought process behind that?
You know, to be completely honest and transparent, I just wanted to do something bold to show people I'm not afraid to stand up against what was going on at the government level, at the federal government level. And, you know, it was a difficult challenge because obviously we'd never run a campaign before. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how we were going to raise money or travel or get people to show up to events. And one thing led to another. And next thing I noticed, my social media views were going from, you know, a couple hundred views to several thousand views to toward the end there, we had almost 80 million views across TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. Our name was growing.
That came from TikTok, though, correct?
Because most of it came from TikTok. Yeah, most of it came from TikTok.
What would you say at the time? Because you had like what, a couple million followers, you said?
I did. I would say the percentage from TikTok was probably about 87, 90%.
Which a lot of people don't understand. I got to give you kudos to this, because as this political landscape changes, people have the mentality that we have to raise tons of money to get on corporate media. Now, back in the day, that was true, right? You had to get your mug on TV to get your messaging and stuff out, and that costs obviously millions and millions of dollars. But times are changing now, and the political landscape, especially in this next election cycle, is starting to evolve, where a lot of these young people, who's going to be the majority of the voting bloc, get their news and their content from where is social media. So that's something that you are bringing to the table that a lot of politicians are trying to bring to the table, and they come off as very awkward. I'll give you this too, is like you come across naturally, right? You can really feel at your heart, and you are passionate about the Constitution and this country and this flag. But when you see politicians do this, like Governor Whitmer with the chip and everything else, they just try too hard, and it comes off as fake. And you're very genuine in your content. That's for sure.
Yeah, you know, it took some time getting used to being in front of the camera. I mean, even in your intro, I saw you in front of some large crowds, small crowds, medium crowds. It takes time getting used to things like that, being in front of people, being in front of a camera, having a bunch of people looking at you too. You know, in the beginning, you show up in sleeveless shirts and a hat. Then you progress to T-shirts, and you're buttoned up, and everything's, you know, together. But at the end of the day, for me, the message is the message. And, you know, being bold and being not afraid to stand up and say what's on your mind, tackling the adversity, fighting the tyranny, and just being transparent with the people, that's the easy part. It's what do you do to top that the next time? We have a video right now on social media that on Facebook that's topped 200,000 views in the last 24 hours. And it's like, what do you do next to top that? What's the next message? And typically these messages, they just fall in your lap. You watch Dave Bondi, you watch the news, you watch what's going on in the state, and you're like, people would love to hear more insight on this. And then you just go outside and tell them the truth, tell them what's going on. And I get a good response. I do. And, you know, I owe it to the people to say thank you to them for their support. Without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. And for me, that is the definition of grassroots. Start small and it grows from the inside out. And we're doing a pretty good job.
Appreciate that. So go back into like your presidential run. You didn't obviously qualify in all 50 states. And so where was your mindset? You're like, all right, we tried as an independent. Now I need to do something else. Where is that? Hey, I'm going to run for Congress.
So when it came time for us to register for all 50 states, we found out one of two things: that as a Republican, we weren't going to be able to run on the Republican ticket because they changed the rules last year. If you remember, you had to have so many donors to get on the debate stage. We weren't going to get the 40,000 individual donors to be on that first debate in Wisconsin. So
that was a presidential run, right?
That was a presidential run, yeah.
But didn't you run as an independent?
We ran as an independent for that reason, because the Republican Party was kind of, strongholding us, saying you got to have so many donors to get on the stage, when really it doesn't cost you anything to project your message to the crowd, which is what all those candidates were doing. And when it came time, we were told that if you're not endorsed by a party, you run as a write-in. Well, there's 10 states in the country that don't even accept write-ins. That's 20% of the votes, 20% of the country. And that's a massive number when it comes to the Electoral College vote. So we respectively dropped out. We took our beating. We learned our lesson. We endorsed Donald Trump the same day that we dropped out.
Why were you going up against Donald Trump?
It was the other way around, if you ask me, because I joined the presidential race in August of 22. He joined in November of 22. So I was literally one of the first guys to jump in that race, and then he jumped in right before.
We all knew he was running, though.
Well, we can say we knew, or we can say there was speculation. I can't go back and say where my mind was back then. We were waiting. I said, well, okay, if he's going to wait and take a while to get in, I'm going to jump in and see what happens. And I only jumped in, and if you ever found the original video, we put it up on TikTok. It got over 1 million views very, very quickly about me running for president. People wanted something new. They loved the idea of a non-politician. They liked the message I had about the border. And it just kind of grew. It just kind of grew from there. But in all reality, we were swinging for the fences. We struck out, or maybe laid down a foul bunt or something, but we learned a lot. We took time off. What was it? A couple months later, I got a phone call from someone on the other side of the state here in Michigan that said, Anthony, I noticed you on social media. Kildee's not running for the 8th Congressional District. You live in that district, and we need a strong Republican to take that seat. So I kind of got coached up on, what to do for U.S. Congress, and we decided we were gonna start that race. I think that was in January of 24, and ran that all the way through to the primary in August.
And looking at your fundraising totals, you did not bad. Okay, like, to raise money is the elephant in the room with grassroots candidates, right? It just is. And when you bring up fundraising, I always say everybody's butthole puckers. They don't want to talk about it. But in your congressional run, I mean, you raised $141,000, right? Which is not small potatoes by any means. And I tell everyone, we always talk about fundraising, because you and I talked on the phone the other day, and we talked about it being a fixed game. And when you get up to these higher races in U.S. Senate and governor, and some even in these congressional races, unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand it is a fixed game. It really is. You have a lot of people with a lot of money that can strategically put who they want, pawns, as we say, out in front, and they can artificially prop them up with polls and everything else. And they really can like skew the average voter who's not really engaged in politics like you and I. Okay.
Right.
So with your congressional run, you raised $141,000, but just to, compare, in the general, Tom Barrett raised $1.5 million. Okay. A significant difference. Now, obviously, if you win the primary, you're going to get a lot more money, right? So, and to let everybody know out there, and this is going to lead me down to my point, is Tudor Dixon, small dollar donor. She only raised $200,000 in her primary run. She had a group called the WinQuest group, donate $1 million to her campaign. So out of the $1.2 million, give or take thousands of dollars, I don't know exactly what the number is, she had that big donor. So you were effective at raising 141,000, which is on point with what Tudor raised in the primary, even though we raised 2.4 million. All right, without any big donors. I got to put that out there. Little hit. But do you have any big dollar donors to give you an edge? Because, man, oh man, this governor's race is going to be very important in the state of Michigan. It's going to need a lot of money. What can you bring to the table besides just 150, 100? And I think if you really activated your campaign and really got into this thing and got some notoriety, I think you could raise some money. There's no doubt about it. But you're going to have to need more than just grassroots.
Right.
How much more are you going to be able to raise here in the primary to make you a serious contender?
Well, full transparency again. We're doing something that I don't see a lot of candidates doing. We actually promote a $1 campaign on our website. We're asking the grassroots people of Michigan, hey, if you're a forklift driver, a truck driver, a welder, a plumber, a construction worker, a teacher, doesn't matter. We all have $1. That's less than a candy bar and a vending machine. Throw it to us. Feed us $1. If we get 1 million people that want to see change in Michigan to stand up and contribute at least $1, we have $1 million to run our campaign. And it's working a little bit. I mean, we have over 3,000 donors so far with the $1 campaign, but you and I both know the math isn't going to math up between now and August primary at $1 a person. So yes, we do have a room full of people that could sway this this primary. We're talking fully funded with this group. This group is they're investors, they are business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they're run-of-the-mill gentlemen that want to see something different in this state. Some were Democrats in the past, and within the last 10 years have become Republicans. Some were Democrats who are now independents. They're all coming together. And, you know, their biggest concerns are, how are you going to protect our future, our wealth as a society, and make Michigan affordable again? That's their biggest question. And like conservatives do or should be doing, our platform is literally running on the fact that we want to cut taxes, not raise taxes. We don't want to get rid of 5 mediocre taxes and implement one huge tax to make up the difference. We want to cut taxes so that we can shrink the size of government and stop the wasteful agenda. And these gentlemen that are in this room talking to me about this funding, that's all they want to hear. They want to know how we're going to save everybody money.
I tell you what, if you are effective in the small dollar donors, and 3,000 is good. So I'm going to give you another high five on that one. I mean, obviously you got to get that even higher, and you will as your campaign goes along. But if you get big money behind you and you can effectively raise a couple $1 million, Anthony, you're going to be very relevant. Okay. And so I wish you obviously great conversation in that room to get those people. And please let me know if you do solidify that money. I would love to have you back on the show to talk about it. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, once we get our first $1 million, we're gonna send out press releases. So
yes,
everybody knows that we've got $1 million in the bank. Let's go. Because at that point, the news will take us more relevant, as you know.
Well, absolutely.
You got that minimum amount of $1 million. You're a viable candidate. And Garrett, listen, I strongly believe that if Nesbitt or any of these other candidates, the guy from Detroit,
James, Dixon, Kevin,
if they're going to bring 10 million, I would put my message and my platform at 3 million or 4 million up against their 10 million, because what I did with $141,000 in the congressional run is I made it look like we spent $400,000, $500,000.
But to call that out, you only received 10.1% of the vote in the primary in the congressional.
I did because I couldn't match Paul Young's $2.3 million and all the commercials on Fox News and ABC and all that. We put up billboards. We had 9 billboards across Genesee County. But again, learning curve. Had I known how to raise the money better, we could have spent it better. But we waited until July to launch our radio ads and things like that. So we were the last thing on people's minds that last month.
So I'm a data guy. Okay. Everything you just said is correct. When you only have that much money, you can, no matter how great your message is, no matter how much of a great looking guy you are, if you don't get your face on TV, and this is going to be relevant in the next cycle, you're not going to win. Okay. Because when you only can raise 141,000, Paul Young got 74% of the vote, which is 43,000 votes. You got 5,000. You can see the discrepancy. Okay.
Yeah.
So the same thing's going to happen in governor's race, because you have people that are going to, possibly have 20, 30, 40 million dollars. And if you can only raise 3, you're not going to be able to compete, because they're going to get on media more and everything else. And they're going to trash you if you are relevant at the time. So again, there's that gap. Okay. So that is going to be a critical step for you as this meeting. And I got a question for you. So if you don't solidify this money over the next couple months, and you're not going to be able to compete with the 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 million dollars that these people are going to be able to raise or self-fund, are you going to step out of this race knowing that you don't have a chance? And because my big thing is, when we ran, we had a lot of candidates that shouldn't have been there. They take up time, and you go to these places and talk and the debate. And it's very hard when you're traveling 2 to 3 hours to get 5 to 10 minutes on the stage when there's 8 different people running and you got to share time. But my point is, what I'm trying to do is get candidates who are going to be relevant, who can fundraise, who actually have a shot, not only in the primary, but the general. So if you don't solidify these funds, are you going to be man enough to say, you know what, guys, I'm not going to take your money anymore. I'm going to step down and I'm going to support whatever candidate I want to support. Are you willing to do that?
I'm willing to do it if it's for the betterment, if it's for the greater good of the party and for the state. But it's going to take someone with a damn good platform to be able to beat what it is we're trying to say.
That's fair.
I'd like to still think that with the grassroots movements, we can get people excited to get back to the polls. We did it in November of last year when we elected Donald Trump. We've got to keep these voters active. We got to keep them excited to vote, and we've got to bring forth a bold ideology that will change Michigan for the greater good. And there's already been several counties in the state that have named me Michigan's Trump card, because
Okay.
we do follow a lot of what Trump wants to do, and we have the aggressiveness to make it happen.
So let me ask you this. Obviously, you're very passionate about this country. You love this flag. You are very sound in the Constitution. You're willing to do anything for the Constitution, right? I mean, you're going to defend it no matter what. What other skill set are you bringing to the table? Because every Republican candidate will say that. I tend to believe you more than others, by the way. But what other skill set are you bringing to the table to be the executive of this state?
I'll lean in a little closer and say common sense. We don't have much of that in modern politics these days. I mean, we have a governor that has somehow gotten away with passing red flag gun laws in the state of Michigan, which is a direct violation of the Constitution.
That's Constitution. I want a skill set to be the executive. And a lot of the other candidates have said common sense. I see Eric Nesbitt putting out common sense. Everybody's jumping on the Doge and all that. I know you're constitutionally sound, okay? But what other skill set are you bringing to the table to be the executive?
I ran a small business for 8 years recently, a trucking company, which isn't easy in the state of Michigan.
No, it's not.
We have a lot of trucking companies. We have a lot of federal laws. We have a lot of state laws that are insanely ridiculous.
And the margins, people don't understand in trucking companies, the margins are very small, by the way.
Very small. They think, oh, you make a ton of money, but you also have a lot of expenses with maintenance and repairs and tolls and all kinds of things. So running a trucking company isn't easy. It's not just babysitting a steering wheel. There's a lot going on, especially with our roads here in Michigan. So because I worked for one of the largest road construction companies in Lower Michigan, I actually do have an idea of how to fix our roads, and we have the most aggressive plan from any candidate in the state that will fix our roads as fast as possible with better technology, whether it's rubberized asphalt or it's no rebar in the concrete, floating asphalt, so to speak. We tested that on 275 last year. It's working brilliantly. The problem in Michigan is we need someone that knows how to put together the footprint and stay attached to it. Don't deviate from it. Our goal is to fix the roads in Michigan. Our goal is to reduce taxes so people don't have the burden and the stress of overtaxation. Hell, the people up in Bay City don't even have representation. So we need someone to come into office that understands what the job duty is, who's not afraid to go to work. And as a truck driver for 21 years, I'm ready to roll my sleeves up, get to work in Lansing, not take a vacation, not work a third of the year, and seriously bust my butt for the people of Michigan. Because if we don't do this now, to all the people that are listening, if we don't do this now, this state will get so far gone, we'll never be able to get control of it again. Period.
Last question, because we're running out of time, because I know you have other meetings for today. So you're going to stand for the Constitution no matter what, yes?
Yes.
Okay. In 2020, you said you lived in Saginaw?
I did.
Michigan? Okay. Why didn't you stand up for the Constitution during the pandemic?
In what way? Because I didn't comply with anything she said.
I was around the state nonstop during COVID with the unconstitutional lockdowns and mandates and the freedom festivals that we did. We circulated a petition called Unlock Michigan to take away the governor's. I don't remember seeing you at any of those rallies or anything else. And I'm just, because you said you'd stand for the Constitution.
Yeah.
Why didn't you get activated then? If you're so passionate about the Constitution, where was that activism back then? What were you doing?
I didn't get into politics until 2022. That's when I started putting my face on political ideas, political messaging. I've only been, flipping the script, as you would say, for the last 3 years. Back in 2020, when COVID hit, I was furious because Whitmer shut down my trucking company and threatened me with a $10,000 a day fine if I kept running. To discriminate against me and tell me that I can't go to work for my own company because somebody got the flu out there was ridiculous. It was a travesty in my life. And at that moment, it got me to start thinking, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do to change things? And one night laying in bed, I was reading a book by Gandhi, and I quote this all the time. Gandhi says, sometimes if you want to see true change in the world, you have to be the change you want to see. Well, then that's when the light clicked and went off, and I said, okay, what can I prepare for? Made a video on TikTok about running for president. It went viral. And next thing you know, I was in the political, not spotlight, but in my own spotlight. So it all just kind of.
Did you comply and shut down, or did you stand up?
Oh, I shut down my trucking company because I didn't have $10,000 a day to be fined. And I already lost over $200,000 because of this woman with revenue and income and this, that, and whatever. But no, I didn't stop. We traveled the state. We went out to eat. We went to the casinos up over the bridge in the UP. We went to Mexico on vacation. We traveled. We got out of the house. We didn't stay home. We didn't wear a mask. I never got the shot. My kids didn't get the shot. But so, no, we didn't comply as far as staying home, isolating yourself from the world, living under slavery. We didn't do that. We lived our lives. So the only effect I had was the threat of $10,000 a day fine if I kept working.
So here's my point. Like, what people did in 2020 holds weight with me because we lived and breathed it. The people who are watching this show, a lot of these folks who follow me, were in the trenches. We didn't run. We didn't go on vacation. We stayed and fight. That's what we did. And talking about losing business, I mean, my business, half the revenue left, right? Still haven't recovered to this day. So what we're looking for as a grassroots army is someone, who's not going to tuck tail. They're going to stay there and they're going to fight. Did you circulate the Unlock Michigan petition? Were you a petition circulator for that?
No, I didn't know much about it back then. And at some point you say, well, at least, I came to my senses. I got involved. I started doing the right thing. And for me, that was around 2022 when I started getting involved in the politics. And like you just said, you guys didn't give up. I lost a congressional race, ran it from start to finish, and I didn't disappear. I immediately got involved in the next race when the general was over. I've shown the people that now this is who I am. I am someone that is involved in politics. I'm passionate about seeing the change in this country, and I put together policies that'll make it happen. Too often, too often in Michigan politics, somebody will stand up and run, try to make a name for themselves. When they get beat, they're beat down and they don't get back up. They stay out.
That's true.
I got back up, and I plan to stay up now for the foreseeable future. And I like your idea. I do. If I end up dropping out of this race because mathematically it's not going to work out and the money's not there, then we'll talk about a county commissioner position or something to get me elected, so I'm not 0 for 3,
Anthony,
and go from there.
Awesome. Okay, what you just said gave me the chills, because that's what we need, not only in this state, but in this country. We need 100, if not 1,000 Anthony Hudsons. We truly do. Because you and I talked, it's a fixed game, unfortunately. If you can get those millions of dollars behind you, different ball game. We're talking a different show right now. But for the people out there watching, and this is what I want to do, because I'm playing the long game, just like I messaged you. This is chess, not checkers. And that's why I'm not running. I'm trying to make sure that we're winning up and down the ticket to make sure we get good candidates, because if we win at the local level, that's where the power is. And as we get more and more Anthony Hudsons out there that are standing up for the Constitution and doing what's right and just speaking common sense like you are on today's show, we're going to start to build something pretty special. And if we do that over the next decade, if we do that over the next 2 decades, this political landscape is going to look entirely different. So people like you and I can actually run for these levels of office without having to rely on the big donors, because we're going to build something.
That's right.
So that's what I want to see from you. If you aren't effective in raising the money that you need, and that number over the next 4 to 5 months, it has to be over $1 million.
It has to be.
If you don't raise $1 million in 4 months, 5 months from now, basically the summer, I'm expecting you to step out and we're going to find some other position for you to run, because we need you involved. Okay. And if you get involved at the local level, I'll do everything I can to support you and help you, man. I really
appreciate that. And I want people to understand that the old saying, that we hear thrown around every now and then, we have the numbers, right? We have the numbers. In Michigan, we outnumber our government, our elected officials, 1,000 to 1. And we always talk about getting grassroots candidates that can stand up, that have a message, that can raise money, that can take on the corrupt corporation in Lansing, that can take on the 3-headed left-wing cartel that we have now. And now you have it. So everyone that talks about getting a grassroots candidate, I don't just have a message. I have a platform. I have a movement. I have the ability to bring Agenda 47 to Michigan. I have the ability to bring transparency and accountability to government. If we come together, and as we talked the other day on the phone, I said, we should all be helping each other instead of constantly, getting resistance and pushback. We should be helping each other, because this movement, this grassroots movement, the army, as you call it, is more powerful than people think. And if they would just stand up and assert their power in unification, we can't be stopped. I don't care what obstacles we get. We can't be stopped if we show up in mass numbers. And that's why we ask for $1. Go to our website, electanthonyhudson.com. It says right there on the first page, a $1 campaign. You donate $1 today and don't put it off on the next person, because who knows what the next person is going to do. In a few months, we'll have that $1 million. Our investors come in play. We get totally fully funded. Then you'll see me in a bigger bus than Swanson has, with a better looking picture on the side.
Dude, you don't get no bus, man. You bring a semi or a sweet big truck. Don't you dare get a bus. I'll make fun of you. Anthony,
I gotta have something to sleep in.
I appreciate your time, man. Hey, I'm looking forward to see what you do over the next several months. If you can raise that money and you're coming on here and say, Garrett, we raised $1.5 million, that's a totally entirely different conversation, man. So we wish you luck, stud.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, and we'll be in touch, because like I told you the other day, there is a spot for you in government as well. And, we have to make sure that if I get elected, we have the right people around me. I don't want the corruption around me. We need the right people with the right attitude to stand up and say, that's wrong, we're right, and this is what we're doing. So I look forward to working with you in the future.
All right, buddy. Have a great day, man.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. It's a great conversation. And I wanted to give him an opportunity to come on. I've been watching. He has a very impressive TikTok platform, but in politics, it has to be bigger than just TikTok. You have to grow platforms across the way. And unfortunately, you have to be able to fundraise. That's the elephant in the room with anyone that ever wants to get into a statewide race. And I respect him, and I appreciate anyone that wants to throw their hat in the ring. But the proof is in the pudding, as they say. If you can't effectively fundraise, then you're dead in the water. Okay, you don't have a chance. Okay, so if he doesn't raise the 1.5 million or so that he needs in the next several months, I'm expecting him to step down from the race and run for local office, and that's what I want. I want that type of guy running for commission, running for state rep possibly. Okay, and we have to get away from this kind of mentality that I want to get involved in politics. I want to run for president, and that comes up short. You know what? I want to run for Congress, and if Congress comes up short and only getting 10% of the vote, then we're like, you know what? I'm going to redo it, and I'm going to run for governor now. It's not a good long-term strategy, especially at the grassroots level. We need people like him to start locally, build from there. I kind of relate it to football. I'm an old football guy, okay? When you're in high school, you don't say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to play for the Detroit Lions. I'm going to play for the Dallas Cowboys. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show up to practice and I'm going to play. What's going to happen when you're a 17-year-old kid and you walk up to camp? They're not going to let you in. I guarantee it. There's a process to get to that level. The speed of the game's way different than high school, right? So you go to high school, you're really good. You may get recruited to play at the college level. No matter what college, Division I, II, or III, if you play at the college level, that is a huge accomplishment. But then when you get to college, the speed of the game's a little faster. People a little stronger, bigger, faster, right? So your brain and everything else adapts to that speed. And then you may get a shot at the NFL, okay? I went through that process in football. And I can tell you, when I went up to the NFL and I saw how fast those athletes were moving, guys that were bigger and taller and stronger than me, moving faster than me, then I was like, wow, the game is definitely intense. Your mind adapts to that speed, and then you can start reading the plays and everything. But my point is this: there's a process. You have to trust the process to get through this. And that's what I'm thinking long term. And that's why a lot of people say, like, Garrett, why aren't you running? Why aren't you running? I'm not going to water down the ticket again. You know, I'm going to think of the long game with this thing and really get great Republican candidates at all levels. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with him. I think it's very important for people to hear what happens behind politics. It is a fixed game. Okay. Fixed game, meaning if you don't have connections with money, you're not going to win. Not yet. I'm hoping to change that over the next 10 to 20 years with the evolution of social media changing the game, and with the majority of the voter block getting their media and their information from social media. I think even social media will change. They're already starting to show signs of that, where you got to pay for space to get your message out. Okay. They're not dumb either. They're a business and they're going to make money off you, but we need great people to understand what's at stake. So the worst case scenario is if Anthony doesn't raise the money, stays in, and then loses, which he will if he doesn't raise the money. It's just fact. Okay. I like the guy, but he will lose. I would rather have Anthony say, you know what? Can't raise money. I'm going to back out. I'm going to support my candidate, who I want to support, whoever that may be. And then I'm going to run for local office where he can win. And I wouldn't even suggest that he runs for Congress. He only got 10% of the vote last time. I'm not saying it's impossible, but man, oh man, getting somebody of that caliber into a commission somewhere, right? Or even school board, I don't care, but start somewhere where you can make an impact, and then we grow from there. And then in 20 years, we're having a different conversation where candidates like him and me, we have a potential shot in not having this fixed game shoved down our throat. That's just me giving you what I think is up-to-date, accurate, and truthful information. Okay. So thank you, Anthony, for your time today. I like him. I do. But hopefully he can come on the show in 4 to 5 months and tell us how much he's fundraised. And if he didn't, he's going to be a man of integrity and back out and support his candidate at that time. Either way, we're going to win. All right. Have a great day. God bless you. God bless the state of Michigan. Of course, and always, God bless these United States. Until next time.